How to achieve everything in 90 days. 3 principles you will hate, but they will work. Do you want to know how to achieve everything you want in 90 days? I have 3 life hacks for you. Because of them, you will probably hate me. But at the same time, you will get a chance to finally solve all the problems in your life that are related to money. Hi, my name is Leslie. I'm a business coach and entrepreneur and ambassador of the 1% business. On this channel, I document my path from $0 to $1 million in 1% business so that you don't repeat my mistakes and can reach your goals much faster. You have probably read The Miracle Morning, or maybe you have tried different approaches, starting your mornings with meditation, walking, learning, reading books, physical activity. If you go deeper into this process, you can make your morning routine even more intense. Drinking water, doing several rounds of exercise, sun salutation, writing by hand, and feeling your body saying affirmations. But if you have unresolved money problems, then let's be honest, this is a mental masturbation through which you intellectually procrastinate and avoid what you really need to do. So the first principle is called this: start working. Instead of spending time trying to create the right working mood, shaking up your creativity or catching inspiration, just start working. Face the work directly. People think they need perfect conditions in order to start, but in reality, the start itself is the perfect condition. Why does this work right now? When I look at how fast companies are moving forward, companies that multiply their intellectual and creative work with artificial intelligence and technology, creating 100 units of content per day in businesses where 1 or 2 people work, I understand that I need to slightly optimize how much work I do per unit of time. You know, at certain moments in my life, I truly romanticized all these long morning routines and rituals around the work that needed to be done. And then I would look, 2 hours had passed and nothing had actually been done. The only moment when my output per unit of time increases is the moment when I start working. And that is why the start is the biggest life hack for everything else you do at work. When you start working, you start entering the state of working. Everything else is procrastination around the work you think you should be doing. When I need to complete a large mental task, write a big piece of content for a newsletter or script for a YouTube video or a chapter of a book, I need about 5 minutes to really enter it, to imagine the informational context in which I will be working, and then to switch on. Before I could walk around this for hours just to start those first 5 minutes. And so my time between the moment when I thought I should start doing something and the moment when I actually started doing it gradually compressed to this. Now, as soon as I think that I need to start, I simply sit down and immediately begin. What happens then? Then an interesting psychological mechanism occurs. As soon as you sit down to a task, you open a loop and launch a gestalt. At this moment, the Zeigarnik effect begins to work. The brain automatically marks what has been started but not finished as important. It stays in your focus of attention even if you get distracted. Therefore, the work begins to pull you back. Internally, you want to bring it to completion because the brain doesn't like the state of incompleteness. And here is a clear technique. To make it easier to return to a task, stop in the middle of sentence. For example, do not finish writing a paragraph or do not fully complete a detail. Then, an unfinished loop remains in your head, which will keep ringing, and in the next cycle you will enter the work much more easily, because your brain will want to close what was started. Thus, starting work opens a gestalt loop. The Zeigarnik effect holds attention on the unfinished, and deliberately stopping halfway makes returning to work natural and easy. The Zeigarnik effect was discovered in the 1920s by the Soviet psychologist Bluma Wolfovna Zeigarnik. She noticed that people remember unfinished tasks better than completed ones. The story says that the idea arose after an experiment in a Viennese cafe. Waiters easily remembered orders while they were not yet paid for, but quickly forgot them immediately after completion. Zeigarnik tested this in a series of experiments and in 1927 published a work that described the phenomenon that later received her name. The third principle: The work simply must be done. The work does not care who you are. It only cares that it is done. David Goggins, a former United States Navy SEAL, ultramarathon runner, motivational speaker, and author of the bestseller Can't Hurt Me, is known for his philosophy of hard discipline, overcoming pain, and a no excuses mindset. He has a phrase, "There are no shortcuts." This is his internal reference that he says to himself when he faces the temptation to look for easy ways. So the work simply must be done, and you have no shortcuts to look for magic pills, quick solutions, or way to cut corners. In general, the search for quick solutions is the longest path to the goal. This has been tested many times on myself and on many other people. Therefore, the third principle, the work simply must be done, is reformulated into an inner phrase, I will do what is necessary. And a small add-on, to enjoy the work, I will do it as well as I am capable of. My internal standards for my work are much higher than the standards of those who evaluate it, and I will adhere to my own standards because this is exactly what gives me a feeling of deep satisfaction after well-done work. And you know what? If you follow these principles, you will never regret that you worked harder than you could have. I have never regretted it. On the contrary, for me, a good day is when I worked diligently on something important, trained, and spent time with loved ones. If this is done, the day was successful. Conclusion: how to achieve everything you want in 90 days. First, start working immediately. Do not wait for the mood. Second, use the Zeigarnik effect. Stop in the middle so that it is easier to return to work. Third, remember the work doesn't care. It simply must be done. And fourth, do not look for quick solutions. There are no shortcuts for you. If you do this for 90 days in a row, you will achieve everything.